Greetings and salutations, my guildlings. It is I, Izzet, your fire-breathing guide through the wonderful world of Magic the Gathering. And today do I have a show for you. Now in today's episode there are two segments. That's right, two heaping helpings of Izzet for the low price of one. I know, you're all over the moon for the fact that you get to hear my wonderful voice talk about more than one thing, but I won't bask in the admiration for too long. Okay, enough basking. The warmth from your pregnant silence is enough to put me to sleep like a dragon hatchling snuggling up to its first treasure chest. So, what do we have to talk about today? Well, the first segment is something that has to do with Wizards of the Coast and how they have been doing some very interesting viral marketing and letting slip more than a couple of statements that have set the Magic world ablaze with rumors. The second is a variance issue of Deck Tech, and this time I'll be talking about the big dog, the El Capitan, the top tier of the top tier in Standard at the moment, Mono Black Devotion. So for those of you that are thinking about running this deck, you should give it a listen. And those of you that want to learn how to beat it, you should give it a listen. So let's get right down into the thicket basilisk of things and jump into what Wizards has been doing since the release of Born of the Gods. I've heard the complaints and the whining from more than a few Magic players about how this new set is bad or lame, or the fact that there are just no good cards in it. I would love to talk more about that, but that is not what this episode is about. I bring up Born of the Gods because of something that happened while all the spoilers were coming out. During this time, Wizards unveiled a new look for M15, which is the next core set that we won't get our hands on for another 6 months or so. I have to preface all of this with this little addition because, along with this little preview of what was to come, there was a tagline. One short little blurb that quite possibly could mean the difference in Standard being a force to be reckoned with as a format. Something big is coming. 4 little words can possibly be more impactful to the world of Magic as it stands right now. What could this possibly mean? Something big. Well, the rumor mill activated its millstone and the theories poured forth like the water from a fairy's vase. But the largest quantity of these rumors focused around 5 specific cards. 5 cards that if re-released in the next core set could bring the world of Magic crashing down around us. The Moxes. No, I'm just kidding. The Titans Moxes. Like Wizards would reprint those again. Yes, I'm talking about the big daddies of core set, the sultans of the beatdown, the 6/6 baddies of your nightmares. Frost Titan, Inferno Titan, Grave Titan, Sun Titan, and Primeval Titan. Never have 5 different cards been so synonymous with big stompies and so ingrained in decks than the Titans. Yet, what does this all mean for the format of Standard if Wizards does indeed reprint these behemoths of the multiverse? It means winter is coming, my friends. Now, Grave Titan and Frost Titan, in their own rights, were decent enough and saw a good amount of play. Inferno Titan was a god among giants and sealed and drafts. But the two that would be the standout gargantuans for this current Standard would be Sun Titan and Primeval Titan. In the current meta, Sun Titans enter the battlefield ability alone is worth the hefty price of 6 mana. Think of the many things with the converted mana cost of 3 or less that the Vigilant Warrior can drop back onto the field. Zathrid Necromancer, Detention Sphere, Pack Rats, Night Veil Spectre, and Lockstone Smiter are just to name a few. Any deck running a good dose of white would be able to utilize the Titan's ability to the fullest, and he would quite literally be a game breaker. But not as much as his green cousin. Prime Time, as he is so lovingly called, is a beast of a different color. Dropping any 2 lands when he enters the battlefield is ridiculous, even without landfall. And add in to the fact that they could be Scrylands or Shocklands is enough to make. Add in the 6/6 and trample, and it's game over. People played Primetime just for the first enter the battlefield ability. If they got to swing with him, it was a bonus. Why am I harping about Primetime so badly? Well, when there's a mono-green Devotion deck that can drop Garrett Collar of Beasts on turn 2, I find the choice between that or Primetime a bit terrifying. Either choice is an auto-scoop, in my opinion. Do I think that they're going to reprint the Titans? No. Do I want them to reprint the Titans? Again, I have to say no. The Titans have only been gone for 2 rotations. They haven't had a chance to really marinate yet. Give them some time to simmer, and when they do make their return, they will be twice as potent, twice as effective, and twice as spicy. Now, let's go from rumor to fun fact. Great segue, right? During the pre-release of Born of the Gods, some players noticed something a little different about the cards of theirs. It wasn't a misprint like finding Soren Markov in your Dark Ascension booster. No, there was a series of numbers pressed into the back of the card. For the very few chosen lucky enough to see these numbers, a small select figured out that it wasn't just a mistake. In fact, it was a cipher. A code that once cracked led the players to a page that is still up now that has had a preview of a card. Most players called hacks and brushed it off as a fake card because of the weird new mechanic it had, but others still had faith that Wizards wasn't screwing with them. The card was named Magister of Worth, and it cost a hefty 6 mana, 1 black, 1 white, and 4 colorless for a 4/4 flying angel with a mechanic called Will of the Council. Now, the ability stated that when Magister of Worth enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for Grace or Condemnation. If Grace gets more votes, each player may return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. If Condemnation gets more votes, or the vote is tied, destroy all creatures other than Magister of Worth. What the what? A game mechanic that promotes group games? And even more than that, a mechanic that will cause more fights and politicking in group games than there already is. Wizards, after sitting back on their giant piles of money in Jace the Mind Sculptors while laughing like the evil geniuses they are, came out and said, "Yep, card is real. Suck it, bitches." Okay, I added the last part, but in my imagination, they're like those too cool for high school kids in those 80s teen movies. Now, that in itself is an awesome card and an amazing piece of viral marketing by our friends at WotC. But shortly after that, more cards were found with more numbers on them. This code led them to another card called Cogwork Librarian, a 3/3 artifact creature for 4 colorless mana. Kind of vanilla, right? Now, what type of dragon do you take me for? Would I hold out on you for some measly 3/3 in this episode about rumors, rants, and rats and realities? Of course I would, but I won't. The Librarian has an ability and it is stated as follows. Draft Cogwork Librarian face up. As you draft a card, you may draft an additional card from that booster pack. If you do, put Cogwork Librarian into that booster pack. Is this not amazing? First, a card that promotes group gaming, and then a card that promotes drafting. Now, if you get stuck with a bunch of these guys, a 3/3 for 4 mana is not bad. But imagine the power you hold with this card in a draft. We've all had those packs where there are 2 really good cards, or that very special foil rare and mythic pack. With this card, why not take both? Control players should be foaming at the mouth for this card, controlling the game before it even started. That is some second level shit right there. Along with this reveal, we also got the name of the set, Conspiracy. Will it be the newest Unglued or Unhinged set? I hope so, because Magic has been clamoring for another set like that for a while. This brings us to the last of the contagion engine that is this rumor mill. I give you the biggest rumor around at the moment, a hint at what the next blocks will be. It wasn't hinted at in a card or from any website. This This was hinted at by wizards themselves and hidden in plain sight. For those of you that take the time to read the little booklets that are packaged with the fat packs, instead of just throwing them away, there is a whole slew of information in there. The story and how it's affecting the multiverse, about the planeswalkers, and even about the gods themselves. Now, we all remember Tamio, the Moon Sage. She was from Kamigawa and was just chilling in Innistrad when all hell broke loose. She would have liked to have been left alone to study, but the events that happened forced her into action. She really had no reason to be there other than reading. Well, we have a planeswalker again who is far away from home. Kiora, the Crashing Wave. Our friendly neighborhood blue-green planeswalker is from the peaceful plane of Zendikar, which, if you remember, was quickly taken over by giant flying spaghetti monsters and some of the biggest creatures Magic has ever seen, the Eldrazi. Now, that wouldn't be enough to hint at the next set, except that Kiora is on Theros specifically to find a way to stop the Eldrazi, and she believes that the denizens of the deep on Theros are the way to do it, so much so that she has the Tritons, the merfolk of Theros, worshipping her as Thassa's avatar. That small blurb is enough to get this dragon thinking that our next trip is going to be a return to Zendikar, smack dab in the midst of planar warfare with the Eldrazi. And why not go back? The story is unfinished. Sorin left Nissa all alone when she decided to awaken the Eldrazi, and Chandra and Jace were the ones fighting over the scroll that would eventually end up in Nissa's hands, so she could awaken them. What's happened to her and her elves? The story is unfinished, and I, for one, would love to see it finalized. So yes, the tagline that started it all could have a double meaning. Could we see the return of the Titans to standard play? Or are we returning to the plane of Zendikar and finishing off the Eldrazi once and for all? Something big is coming. Will you be ready? So, now we leave the world of rumor and conjecture to deal with the real. Deck Tech version 2. Now, as I said, this variance is on Mono Black Devotion, and it is for you, my guildlings, to learn how to play it and garner some knowledge of the ins and outs of this top-tier deck. Now, when you look at Mono Black Devotion, something seems very strange about it. Just looking at the many deck lists that are out there for this deck, at least to me, something seems a bit off. Quite simply, this deck should not be winning. On paper, this deck has so many faults that it is a little unreal as to how good it has been doing in all of the major tournaments lately. When you go to a major tournament, about 45% of people are playing some version of it. If you happen to be one of the lucky ones getting into top 8, that percentage skyrockets to about 75. So why does this deck look so bad but play so good? That is what I am here to answer. The first answer is simple. Overwhelming board presence. This deck can get out of hand real fast, and its bombs, which there are 4, can be difficult to deal with. The second answer as to why this deck is so powerful is this. All of the answers for this deck are in multiple decks spread throughout the standard meta. There are 2, maybe 3 decks that run multiple answers to the deck because of the colors they run. Esper Control, Azorius Control, and American Control have a better chance of dealing with Mono Black than anything. Now, with this deck tech, we are going to do this in 6 easy steps. Step 1, bomb cards. Step 2, support cards. Step 3, wild cards. Step 4, mana fixing. Step 5, sideboarding. And one of the most important steps, Step 6, how to beat this deck. This is a simple and easy formula to understand. So what ain't broke, don't fix it. Step 1, the dirty bombs. This deck, as I said before, has 4 very serious bomb cards, and each deck runs 4 of each. So unlike Esper Control that we talked about last time, which runs maybe max of 6 threats total, this deck runs a whopping 16. The first one, which is the easiest to explain, is Desecration Demon. This bad boy is a 6/6 flyer for 4 mana, 2 black and 2 colorless. Now he does have a hitch to him. During each combat phase, any opponent may sacrifice a creature to tap him. If they do, he gets a +1/+1 counter, and boom, he's now a 7/7 flyer, getting more and more out of control. It is easy to see why you would want to run this guy. Not many things can deal with something this big that fast. Even RDW, or any other manner of quick creature decks, like a White Weenie or something, usually don't have something to get rid of this guy. Use it to your advantage. Removal like Hero's Downfall can get rid of him pretty easily. Same for Dark Betrayal, but Devour Flesh and Celestial Flare are also popular. So if you're going up against decks that run those cards, be wary. The second bomb is a Spectre, and just like its predecessors before him, he does stuff when he hits a player. Nightveil Spectre is a spiffy 2/3 flyer that costs 3 hybrid blue and blue-black mana. When it deals damage to an opponent, they exile the top card of their library, and as long as you control Nightveil Spectre, you can play that card. That is very important wording. Play, rather than cast, because that means you can play your opponent's mana if Spectre exiles it. Now again, he can fall to removal just like Desecration Demon, so the same warning still applies here as well. I don't have to tell you that exiling your opponent's card can greatly help you, and hinder them. I don't know how many times I've been hit by the Spectre and it exiles the very card I needed. It gets very annoying, so use this creature to your advantage. His Devotion to Black will come into play soon, so keep listening. Nuke number 3 is a humble card that costs a very cheap 2 mana. 1 black, 1 colorless. This card is Pack Rat. This little dude has a tendency to be your kill card. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of rats you control. So if you have 2, it's a 2/2. If you have 3, it's a 3/3. If you have 4, it's a 4/4. And 5, it's a 5/5, and so on. Now I know you're thinking about that last number. Izzet, it can't be a 5/5 because of the rule of 4. Does it have a stipulation like Relentless Rats? No. You can only have 4 in your deck. It does, though, have a pretty nifty ability. If you pay 1 black, 2 colorless, and discard a card, you make a token copy of Pack Rat. This is a token that is an exact copy, converted mana cost and all. So a Ratchet Bomb for 0 will not destroy it. Once you play Pack Rat, you need to decide if you're going to go on the Pack Rat path, or some other avenue for your opponent's destruction. The path means that you are forfeiting most of your cards in your hand as food to feed the rats. Only key cards should be kept. Anything else is fair game to be pitched into the graveyard to make your rats bigger. Mutavaults are a big help here too, but I'll explain that in the support section. The fourth and final grenade is a common. That's right, a common. He is lovingly called Gary, but the card's name is Grey Merchant of Asphodel. This bomb is a 2/4 for 5 mana, 2 black and 3 colorless. I can hear you all now. Why is he so vanilla? Why would it be a bomb card if it was vanilla? Come on, you know me better than that. Gary has an Enter the Battlefield ability like no other. When he enters the battlefield, you count your devotion to black. Each opponent loses that much life, and you gain that much life. This is where all that double devotion comes into play. Desecration Demon is 2, Nightveil Spectre is 3, Pack Rats in each token is 1, and Grey Merchant counts itself as well with 2 black. Now here is a trick that mono black players love to use. Don't cast Gary right away. Save him for your second main phase. Attack with your Demon or Spectre or all your rats. Give your opponent hope that they can survive another turn. Then drop the Grey Merchant. The dejected look they get on their faces is priceless, and you'll feel accomplished. Also, realize that they can react to his trigger, so if you're playing RDW, look out for Skullcrack. It won't stop the loss of life, but if you're at 3 or less, you lose. Gary is worth every ounce of his 5 mana because if he costs 1 less, he's a broken rare, and if he costs 2 less, he's game destroying. Did I mention that none of these bombs are legendary? Yeah, so each of the 16 bombs this deck runs can be out side by side with their buddies. Step 2. The best supporting actor nominees are Mutavault, 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 Mutavault. And that is exactly how many of these things you should be running. This utility land is ridiculous in this deck. Mutavault states it is all creature types at all times. That includes rats. So if you don't have the mana to play a spell and discard a rat, no problem. Just activate Mutavault and Pack Rat gets bigger by 1. On top of that, it's a 2/2 blocker, attacker, and sacrificial lamb. Here's a trick with Mutavault that will make you look like a smooth criminal against your opponents. You have 4 mana, 3 swamps, and a Mutavault. Enough to make a rat token, but not attack with the Mutavault. Easy enough. Declare your attack with the Pack Rat, make your token with the 3 black mana, and then use Mutavault to activate itself. Did I just blow your mind? I bet I did. Underworld Connections, this 3-drop enchantment is pretty useful. It's 2 black mana, add to the devotion, and gives you card draw. The card draw allows you to find your threats faster, or continually have ammo in your hand to feed the rat. And again, a little hint, if someone's playing Pithing Needle, and they target Underworld Connections, you can still use the mana to draw a card. The land has the ability, not the enchantment. Just a little tip from me to you. Other than those 2 staples, removal is your friend. Doomblade, Hero's Downfall, Ultimate Price, Dark Betrayal, Devour Flesh, Farika's Cure, and even the new Bile Blight. No, they don't add to devotion, but they damn well deal with a field of creatures pretty quickly. The last 3 support cards come in the form of hand control. Those are Thoughtseize, Duress, and Lifebane Zombie. Thoughtseize is an awesome turn 1 play, allowing you to take anything but land and putting it right into the graveyard. Duress works like a Thoughtseize, but you can't take creatures or land. And then Lifebane Zombie allows you to exile a green or white creature from your opponent's hand. It's also a 3/1 with Intimidate, which means it can only be blocked by black or artifact creatures. And its devotion is 2 black, 1 colorless, so again, it works with Gary. Now, here's another little hint. Lifebane Zombie works against Loxodon Smiter, by the way. They aren't discarding it, so they don't get to drop it onto the field. They're exiling it. Step 3. The Wild Child. Unlike Esper, there are not as many relevant wild cards for Mono Black Devotion, but there are a few depending on what you want to do with the devotion. Disciple of Fenax costs 4 mana, 2 black, and 2 colorless for a 1/3, and also allows more hand control by forcing your opponent to reveal cards from their hand equal to your black devotion, and you get to choose one that they discard. Erebos, God of the Dead, stops life gain as well as offers you card advantage, and a nice 5/5 indestructible if you get enough devotion to go off. Whip of Erebos can be fun to play, bringing back a Gary from the graveyard for his enter ability and swinging for 2 with lifelink. Why not? On top of that, Whip also 2 black devotion. Elixir of Immortality can reshuffle your graveyard to rebound all of those cards you tossed for your rat, and you gain 5 life. Boon of Erebos allows you to regenerate a creature, gives them 2/2/0 for the low price of 1 black mana and 2 life. Keepsake Gorgon is a heavy price of 7 mana, 2 black, 5 colorless. Again, works with devotion. But it's Death Touch, and when you monstrous it, it kills a creature that is a non-Gorgon. So there's some removal in there. Wild cards are for you to play with and try out for yourself. Add your own flavor or give yourself something to stand out from the crowd. Step 4. Mana. My precious. You would think that step 4 would just be 20 to 23 black mana. It's not the case, really. Mutavault is a must, and running 3 or 4 is your best option. Then, Adding in the new Scry lands can help you fix your draws. So running 4 Temples of Deceit, or Temples of Silence, or even the new Temples of Malice can help you get to your cards, the cards you want faster. But I would only run 4 Temples total, as you don't want to get slowed down, so running any combination of those 3 would work. Step 5. Man over the sideboard. Dark Betrayal is a good sideboard card against Mirror Match, or when you have someone running a lot of black creatures. Bile Blight is the newest 2-drop uncommon that does wonders against RDW and token decks. Now, with the uprise of the new red-green creatures decks, there's kind of an amendment. Doomblades are a good sideboard, but you should probably run them main board. If you run into a mirror match, you know what you can automatically take out for the Dark Betrayals. Duress and Lifebane Zombie are perfect sides against control, and having a few flavor cards in there like Elixir or Whip could even your draws out. Now, this is an aggro deck, so when playing against aggro, you want to side out your Thoughtseize and probably 1 or 2 Underworld Connections. Reason being, you don't want to be taking a lot of life freely when your opponent is more than happy to let you kill yourself. But against a control deck, side in the Duresses and the Lifebane Zombie and something like Erebros. You can take out most of your creature removal because they aren't running many. Leave in the four downfalls and side out the Devour Fleshes. It won't be worth hanging on to them in hopes they drop a creature. Now, step 6. Taming the Angry Giant. This deck is a tier 1 deck for a reason, as discussed before. Answers for this deck are spread around through multiple decks. I have tried and tried to narrow down a deck that could beat Mono Black, but there isn't one specific deck. Esper, Azorius, and American Control have the best shot because of their board wipes and creature control, each adding little touches of other cards to add flavor. One major problem that Mono Black has an issue with is Assemble the Legion. It can race pack rats, and Desecration Demon will never be untapped with the amount of tokens that will be and can be generated by this card. And since Black runs no enchantment removal, they have no real way of getting rid of it or dealing with it. Supreme Verdict is always helpful in keeping their creatures under wraps, but if they have Whip of Erebros, you may find it hard to deal with all of the returning creatures, even if they get exiled at the end of turn. A 6/6 flying Desecration Demon with no creatures to sack to it is still a 6/6 lifelink flying Desecration Demon that is going to hit you for 6. Smaller things like Detention Sphere can handle the rats and get rid of those pesky Underworld Connections, which is a must. Cyclonic Rift works in response to Grey Merchant's Enter the Battlefield ability, giving them no devotion. If you overload Cyclonic Rift in response to the Grey Merchant's ability, it bumps everything back to your opponent's hand. Gary's ability triggers, there is no black devotion on the field, you lose nothing, they gain nothing, and they have to recast everything. Last Breath, Celestial Flare, Devour Flesh, Dark Betrayal, Mysium Mortars, Anger of the Gods, and most removal can handle the threats. But Desecration Demon can be hard for an RDW deck to deal with. Countering their key threats like demon or rats early on can halt them too, and bounce spells like Azorius Charm and Whelming Wave can make sure that they have to recast everything again. Aetherize is another good defensive spell, and Turn and Burn can stop a demon cold. Aetherize and Whelming Wave, if they went on the pack rat path, they have now wasted every single card that was in their graveyard to make those rat tokens. The problem is, this deck runs 16 threats, and no deck runs answers for that many threats. You have to pick and choose your battles and what you can and can't deal with. This deck stomps face for a reason, so be careful and think through what you're going to do. Don't just react. That can cost you in the end. So, That's it, Guildlings. I'm done and a little out of breath from talking through this double-sized portion of Help for the Guildless. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Please follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/help the Guildless and subscribe with that pretty red button down below so you'll be the first to know when a new podcast is up. As always, leave questions and comments for me on Facebook or down below in the comments section, and I'll do my best in answering them. Thanks again for taking this trip through the multiverse with me. My name is Izzet, and have a good night, everybody.